excellent.
Let me ask you a sobering question. If you lost your job tomorrow, who would you be? Not what would you do, but who would you be? I mean, if the title disappeared, if the office badge stopped working and you couldn't get in the building, and the business card no longer had your name on it, would you still know who you are? See, for many people, that question isn't just theoretical, it's terrifying. And it's deeper than the paycheck and trying to keep up with your lifestyle. And it's because somewhere along the way, what they did slowly became who they are. We all say things like, well, I'm a CEO, or I'm a lawyer, I'm a founder, I'm a stay-at-home mom, I'm a pastor, I'm a sales leader. And the crazy thing is, we don't even notice the shift that makes. We started as a description, as a role that was our job, and it suddenly became a definition of our identity. And this is the danger. If who you are is tied to what you do, then when what you do changes, who you are feels like it disappears. Because it's not just your job, it's now your identity. And if you're honest, there's a good chance that this hits closer to home than you've even realized. So today, we're talking about how to make sure your job never becomes your identity, because you are more than what you do. So welcome to the Mind Your Business podcast, the podcast for whatever business is on your mind. Let's get started.
Well, that's excellent.
Well, thank you for joining me for another episode of the Mind Your Business podcast. If this brings value to your life, hit like so that YouTube will know, subscribe so that you can join the conversation, share it with a friend so that they can join us. And of course, if you're listening from wherever you get your favorite podcast, please leave a review because this helps me add as much value to as many people as possible. So we live in a culture that is obsessed with these titles. What do you do? What position are you in? How big is your company? How many followers do you have? How much do you make? See, we don't ask who you are. We usually ask, what do you do? It's cultural. And then over time, we start answering that question as if it defines us. But those are just our roles. It's not our identity. Now, they are important roles, they do have meaning, and they do have value, but still, they are just roles. And this is an important truth. Roles are temporary. They don't last forever. We see this happen every day in people that we know in the job market. We see this happen with athletes. Say when someone like, Tom Brady retires after decades at the highest level. The question's not just about football, it's about his identity. Who are you when you are no longer the quarterback? When the crowd's gone, when the structure of the day-to-day is gone, when the daily purpose begins to shift. He even talked about this. He talked about the challenge of redefining his life after football. He even admitted once on Good Morning America during an interview that he was a little fearful about what he was going to do after retirement.
Football has centered me in so many ways. It's like such a singular purpose that I think when I don't have that, it's going to be a little bit of a challenge for me.
It's true. Athletes all experience it. Executives experience it. Entrepreneurs experience it. Even parents experience it. Think about the empty nesting mom, the empty nester who poured 20 years into raising children, and then suddenly the house is quiet. The kids are gone. She wakes up one day and realizes that the job she's done for nearly 20 years or more was no longer needed in the same way. Now, she's not less valuable, but that doesn't change the way she feels. Or even an executive who's been laid off after giving, 15, 20 years to a company, and then one meeting, one decision, one restructuring, and then suddenly the title's gone, the email stops, the calendar clears out. They don't just lose their income, they've lost their identity. And research consistently shows that even people in retirement can increase the risk of depression when people lack a sense of purpose outside of their work. It's because they have nothing to do or nothing that makes them feel valuable. Now, it's not necessarily the lack of work that hurts the people. It's the absence of that meaning. And sadly, even in extreme cases, It can cause devastating outcomes. I can remember back in 2008, and some of you will as well, that after the financial crisis, there were a number of high-profile business leaders who took their own lives following just massive professional and then the financial collapse of it all. It's absolutely heartbreaking, but for many of those people, they just couldn't see themselves living without those identities. So when your worth is found in your work and then the work disappears, it can feel literally like you disappear as well. And that's why this conversation today, that's why it matters. Because again, your job is something you do, it's not who you are. So I guess the sensible question that we may be asking is, why do we do this to ourselves? If it's unhealthy, why is our culture built around what do you do? Well, I think there's many reasons, but I'm going to offer you three that I think are relevant. The first one I think is performance culture. See, from a young age, we are praised for what we do. We're praised for what we achieve. Think about it. Your grades, your awards, your promotions, your revenue, your recognition, all the things as you grow in life. And then we internalize the message that performance equals value. And then the second reason I think is because of social reinforcement. The first thing that you put on your LinkedIn title is your title. It's what you do. The first thing that people ask at a networking event is, well, what do you do? See, society acts as a mirror reflecting our jobs back to us as our identity. We are trained in our society. It's the culture that we're in that we are to reinforce our identity, again, by what it is that we do. And then third, I think here is internal pride. I think there's something just internal inside that it just feels good to be needed. It feels good to be important. It feels good to be the one who knows how to fix it. But when your entire sense of significance comes from being needed in just one role or one thing, you're building a house on a foundation of sand, and that will crumble. And this is the reality. Again, roles, they change. Companies, they shift. Markets crash. Kids grow up. Careers, they evolve. Technology, hello AI, technology disrupts things. And the truth is, if your identity is anchored to something temporary, your stability of your life is temporary. And then every failure, it feels fatal to your life. Criticism feels personal. Layoffs feels like rejection. And then retirement, where most people think they want to go, well, ultimately, it feels like irrelevance. And success, even success becomes exhausting. I mean, think about it. If your worth is tied to your work, you can never stop working, and you will never feel the success that you've achieved because you're continually moving to the next thing to find your value. And with this mindset, you're only as valuable as your last performance. And that's not sustainable. So this is the challenge. You have to learn to separate who you are from what you do, because at some point, life is going to do that for you. So today, I want to talk about how we can make this shift. And I want to offer you 4 decisions that you can make in your own life that is going to make all the difference. So your value is not in what you do, but in who you are. And the first is this: I want you to separate your source. Separate your source. Ask yourself this question: if my job or my role were to disappear tomorrow, what would still be true about me? If your job or your role disappeared tomorrow, what would still be true about you? I think it would be your character, your values, your faith, your integrity, your compassion, your leadership, maybe your creativity. See, these are the things that define your identity. But if all you can say is, well, I manage people, or I close deals, or I raise kids, or I build companies, well, then this is an indication that your identity is too closely tied to your role. You're finding your identity in what you do rather than who you are. So the question is, how do you actually separate your source? Well, I want to give you a few tips here because I want this to be practical. I really want you to take this step in separating the source of who you are from what it is that you do. And so the first thing I would say is you need to define your personal core values. Because the truth is, you're going to live out whatever it is that you value. If you value integrity and character and excellence, well, these things are going to determine who you are. See, the qualities of who you are impact the work that you do, not the other way around. So it's important to know your values as a person, to define yourself. The second thing here is to change how you describe yourself. For example, change your habit. Instead of saying, I'm a CEO, say, well, I'm a creative, or I'm a builder, I'm a learner, I'm a problem solver. And the difference seems small, subtle, but it's powerful. See, the difference about these statements is the statements can exist with or without your current job. So when you define yourself as I am a CEO, well, if that becomes your identity, when you're not a CEO, that goes away. But the statements that say, well, I'm creative or I'm a problem solver, you can be creative anywhere. You can be a problem solving anywhere. Those statements can exist, those qualities can exist with or without your current job. And that is the goal. And the third tip here is attach your worth in something that is unchanging. So for me personally, it's my faith, it's my family, it's my purpose. And it may be different for you, but you just need to know what that is. So you need something in your life that says, even if I never achieve another thing, I still matter. Your identity has to be found in something more meaningful than your titles, because at some point, again, your title is going to change. Your productivity is going to slow down, and your role is going to be different. But if your identity is built on character instead of career, you will bend without breaking. And the number 2 here, big idea of our 4 decisions, is to strengthen your surroundings. Strengthen your surroundings. If every meaningful relationship in your life is connected to your role, you need new relationships. Think about that. If all your friends are coworkers, if every conversation revolves around work, if every dinner turns into a networking event, if your entire calendar right now is all work related and it's in professional circles, you need to change your community. This is an indication, by looking at these things, that your identity is constantly being reinforced by your role. And this is the danger, that when the role shifts, oftentimes those relationships are going to shift with it. You leave the company, and then the tech starts slowing down. Think about it. You retire, and then the invitations to all the work events, well, they disappear. You sell the business, and then people stop calling you. You step out of leadership, and suddenly, well, you're not invited into that room anymore. And look, it's not always malicious. It's just proximity. You were connected by a shared role. And when the role ends, well, so does the proximity. This is why you've got to intentionally build relationships that are not dependent on your title, on your job, on your description. You have to build friendships that are beyond your role. So get intentional about finding opportunities to build those relationships. Join a group doing something that you enjoy. Serve at your church. Volunteer in your city. Go coach a team. Join a book club. Just get involved in something where your professional resume is irrelevant. Hey, we all need relationships where we're valued for who we are and not what we produce. Relationships where people want us for us and not what we can do for them. Where your presence matters more than your performance. So strengthen your surroundings. And then the third thing here of our big idea, decisions to make, is to stretch yourself. You need to intentionally stretch yourself. You need to be more than one-dimensional. You need to have varied interest. You need to learn new skills. You need to develop some hobbies. You need to volunteer. You need to mentor somebody. Now, that sounds simple, but for high performers, this can actually be very difficult because driven people often pour everything into the thing that they are best at. Think about it. We throw ourselves into our business, into our career, into our craft, into our skills, whatever that may be. The professional athletes that we talked about earlier. I mentioned Tom Brady. So when somebody like Tom Brady retires, it's not just stepping away from a job. It's stepping away from a structure that has literally defined his daily life for decades. Think about it. All of his training schedules, all the team meetings, all the game days, the clear goals that were in front of him that everyone was going to achieve, the immediate feedback from the coaching staff and the teammates, identity reinforcement from millions of fans. Now remove all of that overnight. Think about the impact. See, many athletes have openly shared that the hardest part of all this isn't physical, it's psychological. See, they go from being the guy to asking, well, who am I now? And I mentioned the scenario of that mom who spent 20 years raising kids. See, every day structured around school schedules, getting them to sports, fixing the meals, all the logistics of doing everything that a mom does. And then the kids leave. Now, she's still wise, she's still capable, and she's still valuable. But if she never developed interest, passions, friendships, or purpose outside of parenting, that transition can feel like, God, there's been a death. That's what it feels like when you lose something like that. It's like there's a death and you're mourning something that you had that is now gone. So stretching yourself is how you prevent that from happening. So ask yourself this question. If I had to stop working in my current role for a year, what would I pour my energy and my time, my passion into? And your answer can actually lead you to something that may stretch you or help you to grow. If you just had the time, what would you pour yourself into? As a matter of fact, I think it's important to schedule time for that. Schedule time for the things that have nothing to do with your job, but it adds value to who you are as a person. Because who you are as a person is what lasts beyond the job. So schedule it. Make it a priority. Make it important to stretch yourself. And then number 4, the last of our big idea, is to secure your significance. Secure your significance. And I think this is probably the deepest one. At the end of your life, no one is going to stand up at your funeral and read your job description. Think about it. They're not going to list your quarterly numbers. They're not going to recite your LinkedIn headline or your profile. They're not going to talk about your parking spot or your corner office. They're going to talk about how you made them feel. They're going to talk about how you showed up. They're going to talk about how you treated people and ultimately how you impacted their lives. That is significance. Titles are about position, but significance is about impact. And the beautiful thing about impact is that it's not limited to a role. You can impact people as a CEO. You can impact people as an entry-level employee. You can impact people as a parent. You can impact people as a volunteer. You can still impact people in retirement because significance is not about status. It's about influence. Think about the people who shaped your life. Was it their title? Was it their job role that changed you or influenced you? Or was it their encouragement? Was it their belief in you, their consistency in showing up in your life, their integrity, or their presence when it mattered the most? It might have been a teacher who saw something special in you and encouraged it. It may have been a coach who challenged you and pushed you, a mentor who just gave you their time, or a parent who just sacrificed day in and day out to be devoted and dedicated to who you were becoming. See, their significance had very little to do with their position, and it had everything to do with their investment in people. So here's the shift. Instead of asking, what position am I holding? Start asking, whose life am I helping? Instead of measuring success by promotions and by your finances, measure it by people you have poured your life into. So instead of building a resume, build a legacy. And a legacy is not something you leave when you die. It's something you build while you live. So secure your significance in something bigger than your position. Secure it in people. So let's revisit the question that we discussed at the beginning of our conversation today. And this was the question. If you lost your job tomorrow, who would you be? If you lost your job tomorrow, who would you be? And my hope for you is that you can say, even without the title and even without the position, I still know who I am. And if you can say that, you've built something that no layoff, no retirement, and no transition could ever take from you. Hey, thanks for tuning in to the Mind Your Business podcast. If you found this episode helpful, hit like so YouTube will know, subscribe so that you can join the conversation, and share it with a friend so they can join us. And if you're listening from wherever you get your favorite podcast, please leave a review. Now go and continue to grow into who you want to be. And until next time, don't forget to mind your business.